Hello there. So today I'm going to talk to you about the key principles of design thinking with brief introduction and exactly how to get started and how to apply to any problem you could experience in your design project and so forth. To get started, if you haven't heard design thinking term before, it in short is a very practical and creative method to solve problems within and outside the realm of a design. And design thinking in business uses the designer's sensibility and methods to match people's needs and double check what's technically feasible, thus resulting in the best value for both business and its end user. It is worth mentioning that design thinking was first coined in early 70s, however picked up with speed and definition between 80s and 90s because Professor Rolf Fast at Stanford was teaching design thinking as a method of creating actions. Of course, inspiration transferred through different scientists who were into behavioral psychology and design. However, design thinking was first adapted for business purposes by Fast's colleague David Kelly, who you might know for starting design consultancy IDEO in 1991. So what is design thinking exactly, and how you can get started? If you're familiar with user experience double diamond approach, this is not going to be anything new. Those things usually used interchangeably because, let's say, double diamond is based on design thinking approach. Design thinking could be split into three different parts. One is to understand the issue. Two would be to explore and figure out exactly what to target and how to target. And third would be materialize it. Meaning you learn about something, you empathize with, let's say, the users, you explore different opportunities and ideas, and third, you put it into practice. And these things could also be split into smaller chunks, which are actually, sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 5, it really depends on methodology. But I like to stick to simple 6 parts because it's quite easy. Those 6 parts could be something, let's say, you need to empathize with your users. You need to define a problem and need to define, all the data and outputs and pain points and opportunities and things of that nature based on that research. Third, you need to ideate on potential outcomes and solutions. Fourth, of course, you need to put it into practice and prototype. Fifth, you need to test, which is one of the most important bits. And 6, you need to implement. And 6 is quite optional because, let's say, if you're in more agile environment, you would need to implement kind of like behind the scenes. You don't even need to state that, okay, this is implementation state, because you kind of go into a cycle and you refer back and you reuse the design thinking again and again and again until you find the right solution, until you get to the kind of manageable approach. But again, you still need to iterate. And the best bit about the design thinking approach and kind of that segmentation of emphasizing with the users up until implementing it, testing and implementing, is that you can always refer back. So let's say if you just emphasize with your users and you're in a definition state where, let's say, you're about to go to ideation, you can always go back if there's some sort of missing bits, let's say, or you need to clarify something. So every step could trigger you going a bit backwards and then going forwards. The best bit about thinking as a designer when you solve problems is that you can always refer back. And if, let's say, your user testing comes up with something which is unexpected, or maybe your hypotheses weren't tried and it gives you results which are not really beneficial to business or user, then you kind of need to go back and emphasize again and kind of make new hypotheses and follow those steps again until you can test it and figure out. So this is design thinking in a nutshell. It's just a method, it's a guideline, it's not really a doctrine. It's something just to keep in back of your mind that, okay, we need to emphasize, we need to know the human aspects of a thing. We need to research, we need to discover some sort of real human problems and then build on top of that, because what we know is exactly what we don't know and we need to figure that out. And this provides a framework to go from nothing to something in kind of like a really linear approach, but with the ability to go back and be flexible and adapt to a specific case. So needless to say, design thinking can be applied to user experience, customer experience design, service design, you name it, any personal or business problem. So my recommendation to get started with design thinking is to pause the screen and make a screen cap, print it out,
stick it somewhere where you can always see it, let's say on your work desk or like some sort of wall where you can always refer it. And that's what I did a few years back, when I kind of started to dig deeper into design thinking. And it actually helped me because I could always fall back, and I was always kind of like my visibility area where it kind of worked as a trigger to start applying design thinking in everything what I did. And it doesn't really matter if you're, let's say, a seasoned designer, or you're a junior designer, or you're not a designer at all. Maybe you're a product manager again, or a developer. Design thinking is something you can apply to absolutely anything. And the more you apply it to personal life, the more you realize how powerful it is of a method, even if it's kind of like unspoken, well-known framework, which you just do by nature. However, just having those steps, you always know that you are not going to miss out on something, and you have to do it in order to produce a solution which is actually relevant. So yeah, print it out, go get it, start practicing, and let me know in the comments below how it went. Did you like this video? If so, give a like, subscribe, or share with your friends. Show some love.